Well, guys, welcome back to Decoding Babylon. Tonight we're going to be celebrating a very special occasion. Brian, why don't you let us know what that is?
It's the moon anniversary, man. The anniversary of the day our performance of the moon happened.
Yep, let's get into it, guys. It's interesting how this show even came about was that I was watching somebody sent me a TikTok about the astronauts that on the Apollo 11 moon mission. For some reason they have a star or a moon on the Walk of Fame. and I and I and of course it's got even a little TV icon on there, and it's like you can't help but think it's right next to like Jimmy Stewart and some of these other famous actors. And it's like, really, guys, if is this hidden in plain sight? It's like, are they really just trying to say that, hey, this was the performance of a lifetime? It earned him a spot on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And as I posted that, of course, I had to say, did they win an Emmy? Because I can't. I guess it's TV. It wasn't a movie. I noticed the date is 7/20/1969. So I'm like, wait a minute. Today's
Today.
7/20. So I said, Brian, we got to talk about the moon landing.
Absolutely. And I think it's super hilarious that I heard did they launch CBDC thing today as well? Is
Right.
that
I,
is that
I
coming
was
into
I
effect?
was noticing, I was scrolling through my news feed, and I think I saw that first, that they launched the Fed Now, service. And it's like, I mean, again, like,
Hmm.
we don't really believe in coincidences. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're reaching, bro," saying that the Fed Now launching today has anything to do with the anniversary of that. But it's like, when you really think about it, because if you know, obviously, we won't waste any time. Yes, I think that they faked the moon landing. So it's like,
Yes.
so if they deceived that many people on this day, 54 years ago, is it possible that they would use that occasion to once again deceive people by, like, the Fed now literally takes not real money and deposits it into not real safes? And it's like,
Yeah.
again, is this all part of the magic?
It must be a planned day or a clandestine day or whatever they say that that they use this date for some kind of significance, which we don't know this occult stuff all necessarily always. I've
Mm,
studied a lot of it, and there's
mm,
so much to it that I don't really want to get into a lot of it. But
mm-hmm.
like what you need to know is that obviously they believe there's some significance, and you can recognize the patterns just by recognizing the dates and a lot of things that they do stuff on. And it's pretty comical to some way, but everybody always just goes, "Oh, it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence." But the thing I find very funny is that we made these videos about debunking the moon landing and talking about how ridiculous it is that we lost all the original footage. And the most common comment that I see is this hilarious comment of, "We've been there 6 times. We've been there 6 times, or we've been there. Oh, we and other countries went there. So yeah, right. Like we faked it." It's like I just got to say, like, let's just put this into perspective. If I lie to you the first time and it works, why would you think I'm not lying to you all the other 6 times or
Right.
5 times or 4 times? If just because one country lied to you, why would you think all the other countries aren't lying to you as well? I think it's the most ridiculous form of logic to be like, "Oh, well, we went there 6 times, so that means you were fooled 6 times, right?" Because
Right.
you know how, like, when somebody lies, they have to continue to lie to make you believe it. Like, a lot of times you get trapped in this web of lies, right? You start off saying, "Oh, I didn't steal the pants." Well, why were you at the store? Well, I was at the store because I had to go to the bathroom. Okay, well, why? What happened with this? Why were you even driving in this area? Oh, well, I was in that area because my cousin called me. It's almost like this compounding lie on
Yeah.
top of lie on top of lie on top of lie, just to convince you of the original lie, which is we didn't go to the moon. And it's pretty
Yeah.
obvious when you look at the data, or not, or the data
Yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah.
missing,
Oh, yeah.
rather.
Yeah. That. that is the biggest "the dog ate my homework" excuse I
Yeah.
ever had. Well, we lost it, and we don't even have the machines that can play it anymore anyway. So like, it was outdated technology, and you're like, wait a minute, if it was outdated, you use that technology to get to the moon, but now you're again I think Artemis started in 2017, so you're in year 6 of the Artemis program. You're not even scheduled to even attempt to go to the moon till next year. So the outdated tech got you to the moon, but now you can't go. And it's like, okay, again, like, you just ask these kind of common questions, these very obvious questions, and you get answers like, well, you guys are conspiracy theorists. It's like they don't want to address it, or no, they didn't really lose it. And you're like, then where is it?
Yeah.
There's these interviews with these guys from, like the guys the flight control guy from NASA, and the other guy who's like the head of like controlling all the documents at the
The
Goddard
data. Yeah.
the Goddard Space Flight School or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, he doesn't know where it is, and it's like Smithsonian doesn't have it. They're listing all the places that don't have it, and it really is. It's like, yeah, deception begets more deception, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you get. That's all I really got to say is like, when you're supposed to be on the side of science, I'm sorry, you get away with 0 lies. Like, you lied to me one time, and now I have to take all these other things on faith that you're telling the truth. Well, I don't believe liars. And obviously people ask like, well, why would they lie about this? Money. Why would the Soviets not rat on us? Because of money. If you really think about it, why did they go back 6 times? Well, it's funny that 6 times, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
of course, it would be 6 times. But why would they keep going? Because they got to justify that they're doing something.
Yeah.
Like that's the real question. And it's almost like you get into like the later stuff where you have like the Challenger explode with like a teacher on board as they wheel all the TVs into the classrooms. The Columbia shuttle disaster. Was that a reason to say we're not going? The public has lost the will. Or we've already been to the moon, so like, what else are we going to do? It's like they don't need to keep setting shuttles up. But it was like they went. Then they stopped going. Then shuttles started blowing up. When you think like, isn't technology supposed to get better? Like, they should be blowing up less times, not more. Not more times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to it, I think that's to me that's always the easiest thing. Follow the money. Follow the money.
And the other thing too, I'll say to like a lot of people want to say why, and it's not. I don't think it is. I think money's a huge part of it, obviously, but I think the other part of it is control. And I want to point out, you mentioned the shuttle, the Challenger that blew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the interesting thing about that experience is it unified the nation. So like MK Ultra didn't stop, guys. It didn't stop. It just evolved and it changed. And in fact, it's part of how the moon landing operates. And in fact, I'm going to tell you right now, from my personal perspective, after evaluating enough astronauts and like looking at like their behaviors and their things that they do, hypnosis is real. Hypnosis is real, guys. It's very, very real practice. You can go see a hypnotist show. You can Google it and watch videos, and I can break it down. And I do actually have a video that breaks down a lot about hypnosis, and I'll make some more videos. But it's a very real thing. And the person that's most hypnotized are the people that have gone through trauma. But a lot of times, some people are just more susceptible than others. And that's just kind of the way it is. And so these people that were on the Challenger, in my opinion, were never on that Challenger rocket that went out there. And so when it blew up, they launched it into the air, and then it wasn't intended to blow up, and they made the best out of the situation. Like either they launched it and they wanted it to blow up to create a unity of everyone to be like, oh my gosh, we're so sad. And they planned it and they faked it all. Or it was an accident that it blew up. Either way, they utilized it to the advantage of the circumstance. But there's all the astronauts were found that died on the Challenger with brothers. Okay, 2 of them had
twin
brothers. Twin brothers. I don't know how many twins you got, but that but like it's ironic.
What are the odds that 2 guys that are going on a space shuttle at the same time
are both twins?
Yeah, twin brothers. It's like, guys, unless
and Judith,
Judith Resnick or something like that.
Did you see the interview where they find her? She's a professor, and they try to interview her, and she just walks away. She's like, I don't even, and like, why are you so violent to the response? Why wouldn't you just be like, look, I know I look like her. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny. Why wouldn't you take like a funny report? Why wouldn't you even joke with people? If I looked like a dude that died and blew up, I was the same age, had the same name, I would be like, yep, that's me. I would just troll people because I think it would be
Yeah.
funny almost in a sense
Well,
or
you have
whatever. Like you would,
yeah, Dick Scobie, the captain guy. He's
yes,
like
yeah,
clearly is the same guy. I mean, like
same guy.
I
Those
like
fish eyes are the same.
that guy looks exactly the same, and he's got some weird. But does he have that weird company with like the
Yeah,
logo?
cows with trees, and it's got the spiral.
Yeah. First of all,
The
first of all,
pedo symbol.
it could either look like perhaps the way the Challenger blew up, like the smoke trail it left.
Oh yeah.
It also kind of looks like three sixes is what it looks like, and it's
Yep.
these guys were he's probably a Freemason. I don't know that. I'm just speculating, but like, the funny part is like when people try to debunk that, they're like, well, this guy's not this guy. And I'm like thinking like, it doesn't matter. You know what? If one person is alive, it doesn't matter if they're all the same. If one of them is alive, then the whole thing is a lie.
Yep.
So you
100%.
don't need every one of them to be correct. Maybe one of them is a different person. If one of them's correct, the whole thing is a lie. And that's a good. I've never really considered that point that maybe they didn't want it to blow up. So now it's like they're probably like, what do we do with these people? The people on the people who are supposed to be flying were like, oh no, like,
do we kill them? They're like,
I hate to laugh at that, but it's almost like somebody probably has that question. I guess they got to blow up now. No. We're going to give them different identities. No, we're not going to do that.
Well, that's the thing, because they were already under hypnosis and they were scheduled to be launched to the moon and go under the state of hypnosis. And they had a fake set somewhere, and they were going to put them in their suits and have them walk around, or I don't know if they were going to fly or whatever, but or actually touch the moon or whatever, or just fly around it. I forget. But but they were going to fake the whole experience. But then they already have these people under hypnotic induction before they launch the rocket. They're in a room somewhere next to a studio that looks like the moon or whatever, or in a fake spaceship somewhere, and they're being told like, okay, you're gonna wake up in the spaceship. They're gonna wake up and be like, whoa, guys, we're in outer space. How cool is this? And like they don't realize, they themselves don't realize they're not even outer space. So it's like after the Challenger blew up, they're kind of like, well, what do? We can't just like murder these people. Like I feel really bad. Like
some guy said, yeah, we can.
Yeah, some other guy said,
we
for
can't
sure.
do that. We can't do that.
So they had to integrate them back into society via hypnotic induction and give them new identities, but they couldn't change the name. That's the thing. When you program somebody, it's harder to change a person's name. That's why these people have the same names, because psychologically, if you're called the same thing, it reiterates the lie that you've been told. But if I say, hey, your name is Bob under hypnosis, eventually you're going to be like, why do I keep getting called Bob? And you're going to wake up out of the hypnotic state. So it's interesting that they hypnotized these people on the Challenger specifically and gave them the same names. Like they got some to go after their middle name, right? The two women, I guess, changed their middle name.
Well, Dick Scobie is not Dick anymore. He's Richard Scobie.
Richard.
So
it's Richard Scobie.
It's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. So you can change a person's psyche to accept a variation of their name, but if you try to change their name entirely, like it'll be harder for that person to keep the hypnotic induction.
Well, wasn't it Judy Resnick, and then it was Judith.
Judith.
Like, her name is Judith now. Totally different. Definitely not the same person.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. It's like people don't understand, like this whole program is a hypnotic MK Ultra practice. All of NASA is a lie. They hypnotize the astronauts to think that they went there. They launch them up. They launch the rocket. Then they pretend that they're on the spaceship. They put them in a plane, and then they drive the plane and they drop them in the little pod to return. Even if they're in the pod, I don't even know, or if they just drop a pod and they're already on the boat or whatever. They do this practice because they want people. You got to make them believe it.
Yeah.
And so the people that have gone don't even not believe that they've gone there.
Well, it's funny because you bring that point. I was hoping you were going to talk about that, because I think before I really like talked to you like on a phone or anything like that, or interacted with you, I saw that you did that video. I think actually my girlfriend sent it to me of you talking about Buzz Aldrin and how like his like the different moods in, like Buzz Aldrin is obviously shifts like the sun and the moon. He's up and he's down, where it's like he does seem like somebody who has been messed with. And he's like, it's like, especially when you saying like he's talking to that little girl, and the little girl is like, Mr. Aldrin, how come we don't go back to the moon? And he's like, that's not a little girl's question. That's my question. And he's like,
Yeah,
because we didn't go, and that's the way it happened. And if we
yeah.
didn't go, and it's like, and you're like, first of all, he talks like Yoda. Like, what are you talking about? And then it's like eventually he starts talking about money, where you're saying like it's almost like he starts to snap out of it, where he's realizing, I just told this girl we didn't go to the moon. That was not, I wasn't supposed to say that. But
Yeah.
it's but it does almost seem like he doesn't even know if they win or not. And
He
I think that that's
yeah,
what
he
you said
doesn't know.
when you see like I was saying like that when I did my little part two. Did we the moon stuff? Do you believe this? When they show those astronauts, the guys who went on the Apollo 11, they are like the most backslapping, happy-go-lucky guys before the mission, and then when they get back, like I'm not joking. I mean, it looks like like it's a hostage video where these guys are forced to be there, and it's almost like they know something is off, and I'm not sure if
Yeah.
they it was almost like, yeah, they're not in on the fact that they didn't go, but it did
No.
seem like these guys were like they probably before they went on like what happened. Like I don't remember. Like it's almost like I don't remember a lot of what That's why it almost felt like they were like Neil Armstrong seemed like a very sharp guy and very quick, like
Yeah.
when he was talking on before. And then it almost looks like I said, like a hostage video. He's like reading, like almost like he can't, like things that would be burned in your memory forever of like, hey, that was pretty wild. We landed on the moon. Like you wouldn't need a note cards, would you?
No, absolutely not. And you can see it, and even when he's in the interview, you see his cognitive mind start to kick on when he's on the late night show or something or whatever.
I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does. I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No,
which
you didn't.
was
No, you didn't.
what?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
We also would sit there and watch you guys land on the moon. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And so that was his cognitive mind. And the reason why the cognitive mind was kicking on was because he was trying to be sharp because he's like nervous in front of a bunch of people. He's having to talk, and some of the mental faculties dissolve. And so Buzz Aldrin probably has to go get checkups, and he has to go see the NASA doctor every so and so. And really, it's just a hypnotherapist that literally sits down and goes, "How you've gone to the moon? Remember the moon? Remember this?" And the person probably like literally does this exercise to brainwash him to remember into that state. And that's literally how the program works, guys. I'm telling you right now, it's what it is. I know that sounds shocking to a lot a people, and maybe you guys are like, this is unbelievable. It's freaking real. Look up hypnosis, look up MK Ultra.
It does make it. I mean, that's what I started to think when, like, especially after you said that, I'd already kind of like considered that, like, just the way that they act, and it's almost like that's what you're saying. Like, there's so many people who are very capable people, and not everyone could be an astronaut. They always talked about who they would pick to be an astronaut, and if you really think about it, like for one, they would take obviously soldiers and people like that. But it's interesting, like, so obviously people would be.
Well, soldiers are usually brainwashed in a lot of ways.
Well, they'd be used to following orders without questioning the authority all the time. And then you really think about it. It was funny. We were watching, me and my girlfriend were watching this show about, it's called, I think it was called Titan. And it was all about them, like this, fictional show about them going to, the moon of Saturn called Titan. And they had these people had to go through all these rigorous tests, and they were doing all these medical experiments on them to get them to go. And my girlfriend actually had almost like the most brilliant thing. I don't think they're actually going. I think they're just experimenting on these people. And I was like, oh man, I think that's like, I wonder if that's really what like the space program's like, where these people are the guinea pigs. Obviously, they could actually be trying all kinds of things out on them. And then it's like before they don't know which way is up. Yeah, you're on the moon total. You're on the total. They believe it themselves, but that obviously every now and then they know, like they probably watch the same, like the content we put out or people have put out over the years, and they're like, wait a minute. Well, you know what's interesting? I should
like, who wants to break away from their lie, though? Because if they break away from the lie, they lose all this clout and this fame and this information. They've dogged their friends. They've dogged all their other people. If they break away from this lie, you know what I'm saying? So it's not an easy lie to break away from. And the psychological, like, who wants to go from, I was one of the first people to ever walk on the moon to being the dude that didn't go. And now
what about
conspiracy?
What about the funny thing? Even if you believe the moon landing stuff, nobody remembers the third guy. It's almost like you have Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Nobody, I guess it was Michael Collins. Actually, if I didn't look at the star on the Walk of Fame, I would have no idea what his name was. I was thinking, isn't it Alan Shepard? Or supposedly he went to space first or something. But you know what? So it's funny. I actually did see a video of Walter Cronkite like showing like the moon when they were about to land on the moon. And so it says on the screen, and I don't know if it said this back in 1969, but it said CBS News Simulation. So it's showing this footage of them going over the moon surface, and eventually showing it landing. And you're like, okay, so just think about this for 1 second. Even if it said news simulation on it, what is CBS News doing creating all that stuff for NASA? You know what I mean?
I don't know,
Really consider that. This is supposed to be the news. Okay, what if it crashed and it blew up? You know, because obviously that had to be a real possibility because rockets were going up into the air and blowing up on the runway. Like, not that
they
many
just have dynamite on the side for their simulation to like
roll footage B of it exploding and crashing. No, but like that's what I'm saying. But like, think about this again. So think about the idea that they just the same thing when they show you satellite pictures of satellites in orbit, and they are literally the cheapest looking CGI garbage I've ever seen. And all this stuff from outer space is the CGI crap. Like, why do they do that if they have real stuff? And obviously, why wouldn't it be more interesting to actually have footage from the actual ship of like what they're seeing, not this recreation of it? Because obviously,
I would love to see a satellite in the atmosphere just turn sideways a little bit and see if it can spot any other of the satellites as it's moving.
Right. Or like if they can do this stuff, like why can't they make it? Why doesn't it look real? Because obviously,
zoom in on a dime.
Right, exactly. Go watch like what Enemy of the State with Will Smith, and it's like they're following him all around. He's running around. Yeah, like you had a good question. So if the Chinese spy balloon was an actual spy thing, why wouldn't the Chinese just use a satellite?
Why would I don't get that.
Because no one would have saw a satellite, right? Because it's too high. But they used a balloon with they just so happen to have a satellite on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? That actually looks like a satellite. If you don't look at the balloon part, it looks just like a satellite.
Another thing that's interesting is the moon rover, or like the little lander thing. It's actually, they admit in one of the interviews, one of the constructing people says in an interview that the rover is made out of 3 layers of Reynolds wrap. He says this in an interview. And this is the lander. The lander is the walls are so thin, it's only 3 layers of Reynolds wrap thin, and a boot could easily go through it. This is what he says in the interview, and you should probably add this clip in there, honestly. But here's the interesting part. This is the lander that failed. Okay, this is the lander that failed, and they had to come back around the moon and come back into orbit. They flew through outer space in a machine that the constructor of this device said that you could easily put your boot through it. 3 layers of Reynolds wrap is what he says. That's tinfoil, guys. Imagine putting 3 layers of tinfoil together. You think you couldn't punch through it? He said you could easily just put your boot through it. And this is the ship that they had oxygenated and flew through outer space and failed. It was supposed to land and came all the way back to the Earth in.
It may obviously it's incomprehensible to me. And you when you actually find out like whatever they say the science is, do you guys know this? Like I didn't learn this until recently. So obviously they claim to land on the moon side, the sunny side of the moon. So like during the daytime for the moon.
Yeah, that gets 200 and something degrees hot.
The surface of the moon is supposedly 250 degrees.
You think they survived that? That's an oven.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You really think about like all the conditions, and it's like, I mean, it just makes sense to me that if this was a real mission, hey, let's not try to roll live on this because this could end horribly because we really don't know anything about this place. They could say like the moon dust might be like powder and they might sink in. They have no idea. Maybe the moon monster comes out and eats them. Like, how would they know that what's going to happen? And you really think about it. I think that one thing that people don't consider more is, okay, let's just say,
Yeah, what if it's just a like a weird dense gas of dust? Like,
well, that's the thing. What do they know about this place? Just consider this, and I think that this is the thing that I really question the most is, okay, say you get to the moon. Say you got all these rockets. You know, the rocket has to like break apart because it's got all these, you know, all this thrust to get up out of the atmosphere into outer space. Okay, so now all those parts are gone, right? So you don't gather those back. Okay, so now you're on the moon. Wouldn't getting back be the hard part? Like, it's almost like you just take for granted, like you could just get back. You know, like when you really think about it, and then you look at that piece of garbage, like I said, that's got gaps in the panels and all this stuff.
Landing it's made out of 3 layers of Reynolds wrap.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And they flew back to Earth in that thing. Where like, and when you watch the video of it, like, first of all, the camera pans up as it launches back up. So obviously, who's like I said, did they leave the cameraman up there?
That's part of the simulation, though. That's the simulation they tell you. When the camera pans up. But that's the thing. They say simulation, and then they take the word simulation away. So in your mind, you forget, and you're almost like, is that the footage? And then they can easily dismiss it and go, no, that was the simulation.
Well, look, here's another thing. So I saved this and I put this on my thread. If you guys are on threads on the Instagram threads, follow me. Not that anyone actually does anything on there. It's kind of lame. But I every now and then when I find interesting articles, I'll screenshot them, put them on there. Anyways, I had one that was from space.com, obviously. It says the Apollo moon landing was real, but the NASA's quarantine procedure was not. And it shows the astronauts in this goofy tank. And then it's got like, I don't know who it's got, like whatever, some late night host with them goofing off inside of it. And it's like, guys, this is supposed to be science. So obviously it's like, just think about how that article's written where it's like, don't worry, guys, that part was totally real. Obviously we lied about this other thing, but don't ever question this part. When you're like, again, this is supposed to be science. Why would they need to fake the quarantine procedure? For what reason?
They admitted they faked the quarantine procedure?
I'll send you the article.
Oh my gosh, interesting.
Yeah, you're just like, so what would be the need to do that? And it's a lot of people who believe in the moon landing say, yeah, I think that they probably did film the stuff in the studio because obviously it makes no sense that they could live stream from the moon back in 1969. You know, the president could call the moon in 1969 while they're on there. Like, it's not dangerous. You know,
what about the camera footage? You need to mention this because like the moon's temperature is 250 degrees during the sun. And then it's also negative like 200 something degrees during the night on the moon because there's no atmosphere, right? So you're getting intense radiation from the sun, intense gamma rays, direct like infrared heat. Like this is like a very harsh environment. Do you think our film cameras in 1969 could handle the freezing cold of the temperature or the boiling, blistering hot temperatures? Yeah. No. That camera, the footage would melt. Well, I would love to see the technology on the film, how they specially produced film, because these films are heat sensitive. Even if you took your phone now today into a temperature that hot, your phone would just die. It wouldn't be able to operate.
And this is a question.
Let alone film cameras.
There might actually be a good answer for this, but yeah, I was under the impression back and then this was like kind of the early days of like TV and stuff. Okay, yeah. So didn't they have film? Like, so how did they really take the signal from the moon, like, and then produce it back on Earth in any kind of like reasonable way? Like, again, like they always talk about the Van Allen radiation belt, and I'm not an expert on outer space, probably because I don't research things that are fake too often. But like, but like, okay, so they say if you took like your film through an X-ray machine, it would ruin it. You know, so they're going back and forth with these things, and like, yeah, so like you imagine them having a camera out on this surface that's like literally like your oven. You know, like you imagine how many. Just think about when you have guys who like to smoke stuff, and you put in this thing in this cooker about 250 degrees. How many hours before it would be nice and juicy to eat?
Yeah.
You think that like camera equipment could last in that kind of heat?
Yeah.
I mean, like
I think that's laughable. To see that the camera even heat or the cold or the extreme cold. Either way,
well, that's
it would just form ice crystals.
That's a great question that one of my brothers on TikTok posted about. They were saying, like, just think about like how when you're taking a camera, a picture of things, and how you got to keep the lens clean and all these kind of things, and like glass and certain kinds of materials. Where when they talk about going through the atmosphere, it's like obviously like 1,000 degrees negative. It's like 1,000 degrees negative, and it's like 1,000 degrees Celsius. Like the fluctuations in temperature. Like how did, like, obviously we know materials on Earth expand and contract, and when you have technical things, it would cause glass to crack. Like any kind of a lens, wouldn't it break when it's getting exposed to heat and then cold and heat again? I mean, all these things are just saying, like, all that being said is, I don't believe it. I think Brian had a great video in his video when he was talking about that there's this guy who is George Lucas with Industrial Light, Industrial Light and Magik guys.
Yeah,
and he just so happened to be the guy, the inventor of Photoshop.
Yeah. So the funny thing about that is that everybody's like, and people are in my comments like, oh, blah blah blah, this that, and I would love. We should probably on our podcast. What we'll do is we'll respond to comments. It's probably something we should add to our feature here.
Yeah, we
could million comments.
We could do a comment section for sure.
Well, you'll do that for sure. Okay. But the thing I would like to say is that John Knoll had family. He was generation. His dad worked for NASA. Like, he wasn't the only one. Okay, and then it's potentially. He was brought over with his potential other family members, might have been brought over through Project Paperclip, okay, Operation Paperclip. And so when you start looking at it, you see all these generational things. Like, he's not just the one dude. He's like literally, and here's the thing, the footage, he recreated it, and you can actually look him up online. He'll be like, I'm John Knoll. I recreated the footage, or I re-edited the NASA footage of the first landing on the moon. And that's what he's known for, guys, like re-editing it. How do you say that this dude that does special effects didn't take the footage? Because at a certain point, people are like, yeah, does that look fake to you? Yeah, that definitely looks fake to me. And they're like, all right, we need to like scratch this footage from the internet, scrub it, and then just say we lost it. And then we'll have somebody edit it and cut out all the glitches and all the inconsistencies. And then, oh, John Knoll, look, guys, I found the footage and I fixed it and I edited it up and cleaned it. Here it is. Blah, blah. I cut out the wires shot and that shot. I cut out the weird shadow over there. I cut out, like, that's literally what he did. Like, he didn't have to remaster the footage.
What's funny is you say that, and we probably got to wrap it up here because we had a time limit tonight. Yeah. But what's interesting is, as a guy who like the original Star Wars movies, and I loathe like the prequels and the special editions, all the weird tweaks George Lucas did. For the longest time, the fans wanted the original. We wanted the original movies without any weird edits on like a DVD. And George Lucas would not do that. And one of the reasons he would not do that is because he basically said he would look like crap, kind of. He didn't want it to like. And if you think about that, so again, Industrial Light and Magik,
same thing.
And then you have this NASA things. When I saw somebody interesting, I think it was I can't remember exactly who the guy who did this was, but they were showing like the image of the Earth from the moon when they messed with the filters and they showed the photo. The moon.
Oh yeah, you could see the square.
You could see where they photoshopped the Earth onto this black space, and so you really think about it. So guys like me and Brian, now that when we edit things and we understand like the quality of things, and probably like we get real technical when we make our own videos. I mean, obviously I zoom right in and I look at the edges of things, and it's like, do that. I mean, I would just say, I would encourage you guys to do that when you see any video, especially even if they say it's real. For one, always look at the fisheye lens when they're showing international space, and look for bubbles, look for stuff they edited in, and 99 out of 100 times you will find a weird edge, a weird angle,
something not right,
because it's not real. Now think about that.
And once you understand the tools too, if you practice it, because once you understand the tools, it will help you to recognize it. Like, I do special effects editing, I do VFX stuff, and I've done it for a bunch of different movies and stuff like that in the past. So I've gotten pretty dang good at spotting when something's off. But that's something you should definitely look into knowing and researching.
Yeah, and again, like as we started this off, just remember the astronauts from Apollo 11 have a star or a moon on the Walk of Fame.
On the Walk of Fame.
They're rubbing our faces in, aren't they?
Yeah, they absolutely are. And then the last thing we should mention is the fact that they name all their missions like Apollo, Artemis, the Saturn V. Like, why are they all named these things that pertain to gods? Okay, guys, these are all the names of ancient gods. They've been doing it. It's their religion. They believe in it. That's why they name all this stuff the same thing. And like, you would be silly to not recognize the reason why they name these things at all.
No, and Brian and I actually we're mentioning we'll devote a whole show to just going through like the names of the things in the cosmos and the apparatuses they use to witness them. As we mentioned, Lucifer, Satan.
Yes,
these names continue to come up, like just strange that this is supposed to be, this is the science. But anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up on that. Obviously, we could probably do a part 2 of this because there's a million things we could say about this. But look for the next episode. Maybe we will do a part 2 one day. Maybe we'll have longer to talk about this. Maybe we'll wait till the 55th anniversary of the fake moon landing. But anyways, once again, I'm JT. This is my boy Brian, Demon Erasers, and we will catch you on the next Decoding Babylon.
Bye.
Later.